So let me introduce myself first. Thank you all for joining, by the way. My name is Sian. I am one of the financial advisors here at MW. Together, we are here today with Matias. Matias is the founder of MW. Now is probably a good time to say we are MW Expat, but within the next sort of 4 weeks, we are changing our company name and we are going to be Stay. So nothing changes for you guys. Everything's the same. So I'm guessing we have clients already and potential clients that we can help. So yeah, nothing changes. We are still MW Expat. None of us change positions or roles, but we are just changing the company name to Stay. So now we've got everybody in. We've got cities. We've got a lot from Munich, Matthias.
Which is good. It's sort of a home game then.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, and yeah, I guess it's a good mix between self-employed and employed. So I feel like that's good all round. Okay. So let me introduce us a little bit more. We're not just an app. MW Expat have been around for 8 years. We have helped over 3,000 clients. We have 34 experts in different subjects and different fields. And we have people from 18 different countries. So German, I think, I shouldn't really say this in front of Matthias, but German, I think, is a very hard language. A lot of insurance companies don't speak English. And I think English is probably the one language that people go to. So if you don't know German, but you need help, a lot of insurance companies don't speak English. So that's where we come in. But we also do have, obviously, like I said, 18 different countries that people come from. So one of us will hopefully speak your language. So we don't want to make today boring. Pensions can be quite a boring subject. However, the Basisrente, which is what we're going to be talking about, I feel like now is the opportunity to do it because we're at the end of the year. So this is where I'm now going to ask Matias, are we too late? Why are we doing this in December? So people have got a Basisrente, or if they still need to get one, why are we doing it now?
There's a good reason for doing it now. And basically, we still do have until the end of the year, but it's starting to get close now. People can see how their years, freelance self-employed people can see how their years have gone, how much taxes they're going to pay for this year, next year. The same with employed people who might have got a bonus, this, that, and whatever. And it's not too late yet. And the whole idea is, if you want to, then let the German state basically sponsor your future a little bit and save yourself that taxes.
Okay, so it is really about saving taxes then, isn't it? So saving taxes and planning for their future. Tell us about the mechanics of a Basisrente. So why is it good for freelancers and why is it good for employed people?
Okay, I will start with freelancers first, if I may. Freelancers generally not required to pay into the German state pension. So we find out, or we see a lot of the time, that freelancers aren't actually doing anything for their pension now. And that's a mistake, because they should be doing something, because if you leave it too late to start, it starts to become very expensive if you want to have a sensible pension at the end of it. So the reason why it's so tempting for freelancers is they can regulate their income with it. They can, at the end of the year, if they've had a good year, pay more into it. Also, as a freelancer, or when you're just starting a company and stuff like that, it's a little bit, well, your finances are always on the line, and you're either going to have a good year or you're going to have a bad year.
And you just
It could be that it all goes terribly wrong. And any other kind of investment which is liquid, people can take away from you again to pay off any debts that you might have. But the Basisrente, or the Rebrand as it's known, very much is like the state pension. That means that everything I've paid into it, nobody can ever take away from it again. So it does offer a high degree of security like that.
okay.
For employed people, the more they earn, the more beneficial it is. The higher your tax rate, the higher the benefit is you're going to have from the Basisrente.
So the higher the benefit, you can save up to 42%. How does that 42% work? As an employed person, how do you get your 42%? So
Okay.
what are the mechanics? How does it work?
It's actually a very, very simple system. Let's take, for an example, you set up a Basisrente. And in the year 2025, you pay 10,000 euros into it. At the beginning of the following year, sort of the end of January, beginning of February, you'll get a certificate from whichever provider you've chosen saying you paid 10,000 euros into your Basisrente. So what happens then is you take that certificate, and when you do your tax return, you hand it in with it. So let's take as an example, you earn 100,000 euros. You do your tax return, you hand your certificate in with it, and the tax office will look at it and they'll say, In reality, in our eyes, he hasn't earned 100,000 euros, he's only earned 90,000 euros. But at that moment in time, you've already paid your taxes on 100,000 euros. So you've overpaid on 10,000 euros in taxes. So if you have a 42% tax rate, they will give you that back. So the 10,000 euros that you've paid, they will actually give you with your tax return 4,200 euros back.
Okay, so you still have your 10,000 in your Basisrente,
Mhm.
but then have the tax return and it's what comes straight into your bank account?
It comes straight into your bank account with your
Right.
tax return. With self-employed people, the principle is very much the same. It can be a little bit different because self-employed people often owe taxes at the end of the year, and it would just be calculated against that. So one way or another, tax benefit you're getting back.
So for employed people, even though they're contributing into the state pension, that may not be enough. So they still would benefit from a Basis.
Well, if I look at our clients, the majority of our clients, and even if they come here at a young age and they finish their university and they come here at 30 and they find a good job where they're paying the maximum into the state pension, the most they'll ever get is around 2,800, 2,900 euros as a state pension after 35 years of paying into it, which makes the state pension actually not the greatest investment, to be fair. The problem is, and you might think, oh, 2,800, 2,900, that sounds good. And it is a very good starting point. It is also very stable because that 2,800 euros is today's money. And more or less, the pension goes up with the rate of inflation. So when you retire, the amount will be much more. But what you have to remember is you still have to pay your healthcare, you still have to pay your nursing care, and it's fully taxable. And one of the things we do in Germany is we do tax our pensioners highly. We have no special pensioners tax rates or anything like that.
Okay. So what if someone sets up a Basisrente but
Mhm.
doesn't want to stay in Germany? So they are from, let's say, I don't know, Australia. They come to Germany, they work, they're set up with Basisrente. What happens if they want to return and leave the country before they get to pension age?
Okay, they can do that. There are a few things they can do. So this is actually a very interesting question, a very interesting question for our clients, because the majority of our clients at one point or another will probably return to their home countries. You can, if you leave, carry on paying into it and using it in an investment vehicle if you want. Germany's a very not the most exciting country, but it's very stable. So you know your money's safe here. The other thing you can do is you can just pause it and it will carry on growing. They're all investment-based products. So that's one of the major difference to the state pension is they are investment-based products. So you get to choose your own funds. The various providers have got a wide range of funds ranging from, depending on your risk profile, very safe money market funds, all the way up to crypto mining funds, so high risk funds. And they have all of your classical ETFs like MSCI Worlds and NASDAQs and S&Ps and Eurostox and things like that. So it will just carry on growing if you put it on pause. And then when you get to retirement age, or actually that's not true, when you get to 63 here in Germany, it will pay out to you. And a lot of people think to themselves, but it's basic mathematics that they have to think of. Well, I'm going to pay into that and I'm going to pay into it 5 years and it won't be a lot and I'll just have a little fragmented pension here and whatever. But if somebody's in a high earning phase of their career here in Germany and they set up a Basisrente at 30 and then at 35 they leave Germany and they just set it on pause, what would happen then is, so basically they paid in, let's say they paid in 10,000 euros a year. They paid in 50,000. Of that 50,000, 29,000, it's actually cost them with the tax rebate, and 21,000 is a tax rebate. So at the end of 5 years, you have 50,000 in there. And if you just conservatively grow that by 6%, it means that at the end of it, you're going to have a pension of 750 euros every month till you die, basically. So it is actually not just little change or a fragmented pension. It is, and because it does get paid out to you worldwide. So if we don't, in Germany, if we don't pay taxes at the front end, we are in Germany, so we're going to pay taxes somewhere. There's no way around that. So basically, you don't pay taxes at the front end, you pay taxes at the back end. If you leave the country, it would get paid out to you in full here in Germany. And as long as you live in a country that we have a double tax agreement with, which is a lot, let's put it that way, over 100 countries we have a double tax agreement with, it means you have to then declare it as an income in the country where you retire, which is a major advantage because, as I said, we are very with the way we tax our pensioners here.
Okay. But it's not obviously the tax that they pay as a pensioner isn't as much as whilst they're working now.
No, no, obviously it's lower than that, but that's not everybody. This is a conversation you have with German people quite a lot, to be honest. And they always complain about, well, I'm paying taxes now and I'm not paying them, but I'm paying it at the back end. And then there's a cost. And what's the point of doing it? And the tax, let's say, even if you save yourself 15% tax, you're paying 42 now and you're paying 27 as a pensioner. Okay, you save yourself 15% tax and that's nice and whatever, but that's not the point. The point is you have extra money. So if you save 10,000 euros a year, or if you take your tax rebate then that you get back and you save 14,200 and you compound those two numbers by 6, 7, 8% over 25, 30 years, it's a vast difference in the number which comes out at the end, if you know what I mean. So the real big benefit is that you just have more money to grow more money. And it is a very highly, if you do it that way, a very highly efficient way of saving.
And 6% is very achievable.
Well, if you look at the last few years, okay, so this year has been a tricky year, so to say, with Mr. Trump and his tariffs and this, that, and whatever. And we've achieved for virtually, actually for all of our clients, somewhere between 5 and 7%. So we are at the 6% for a tricky year. Last year was a lot greater, we're running well over 10%. And if you look at the last 15, 16, 17 years since we had the crash in America, funds have been going along a dramatic rate and they've been going along well over, on average, well over 10%. But that's happened because there's been money pumped into the markets from central banks, the ECB and the Fed and things like that to get the economy moving. Then we had a COVID boost where there was an awful lot of money pumped into the markets and stuff like that. And money has to go somewhere. They've gone to funds and they've done exceptionally well over the last 15 years. But rather than promise somebody it's going to carry on like that and it's going to be, we're going to achieve 12% for your next 30 years or something like that. Nobody's got a crystal ball and that's a very hard, well, very big statement to make. If we work on 6%, I think that's a very comfortable thing to work on. Okay. And if somebody works on 6%, and you should work on 6% because you don't want to get to 65 and realize you haven't got enough money because it's too late to change. So rather start very conservatively with your what you think you'll achieve, and you can always adjust that as you go along. Then if you get there at 6%, then yeah, 6% is a really good number to work with.
Okay, perfect. So let's say the people who are in this chat now would like to set up a Basisrente. How do we at MW Expat, how do we help them? So what's the process? Do we just set it up for them? What if they have no trading knowledge of choosing funds, choosing ETFs, choosing bonds? We can do that for them, right?
Theoretically, we can help them. So in a way, we're only intermediaries, and we can't make decisions for people. We can give our advice. We can say that's what we would do in this situation, but it's always up to the individual client how they structure their funds. We will then, when they make their decision, obviously help them change it. It's very simple. You can change your funds at least 6 times a year free of charge. That's a very, very simple thing to do, and we're here to help that. And one of the things which is really, really important is that you keep a dialogue with your clients, because we're talking here about long-term saving products, and things do change, markets change. We've just had a phase of really high inflation. Personal situations change from the people. You might have kids, and for example, and then saving the amount you're saving at the moment is too much for you at that moment in time because you have extra costs, or you get a raise and you might want to save a little bit more, or there are so many things that change. So it's very, very important that once every 6 months, we sit down and we just have a catch up with our clients and say, right, what's your situation? Has anything changed? And so on and so on and so on. And keeping that dialogue is the most important thing of having a successful investment over a long period.
Yeah, because as I said at the start, people don't like German isn't their first language. So like some people struggle with speaking to the insurance companies because they don't really speak English. So I think having that 6 monthly, 12 monthly chat is good.
Yeah, there are two things. There are two things here. So first of all, it's when you're setting it up, that's the first major problem you have. Because I sometimes get this feeling that we Germans, we have this feeling that everything that's not really complicated can't be very good. And we, And we tend to, when we're explaining things and when we look at the paperwork that we send out and all of this and all of that, it's totally, totally overcomplicated. And it's very, very difficult to understand if you have a degree in insurance German, to be honest. So it's actually not that difficult at all. It's actually a very, very simple system that works there. But as I say, that's something, the secret of our success a little bit is that we do explain things to people so it's understandable. And I think it's very important that people have an understanding of what they're actually doing. And that's what we're there for, to answer all questions. Yes, that's part of our advisory process. One of the things that we found, we have people living here in Germany for years and years and years, and they get their payslip, and they see on their payslip there are a vast amount of money deducted from it, and they don't know why. They don't know which part is your healthcare, which part is your and whatever. So when we do start to explain it, we do start at the beginning if that's what needed, and just explain the basics, even about the state pension, about this, that, and whatever, because somebody's got to have a grasp of the whole thing to be able to make a qualified decision.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing when you move to a new country, you just don't understand the jargon. Can I say that? Like you don't understand what it all means, the PK, all the things
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, the KV and yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's all like it's all. I've spoken to so many clients and they haven't got a clue what they're paying. They can see the deductions, but they don't know what all the deductions are for. Yeah, I
They're quite upset by them as well. But
think as we all are paying.
one of the other things I've noticed, a lot of people coming to here, they sort of underestimate the amount of deductions they are actually going to have. So in a way, it's a good thing. So we do pay a lot of money for everything, but in, I suppose, an international comparison, we have good roads, we have good schools, we have good hospitals, we have good whatever, but it does cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm going to ask you one more question and then maybe go to some questions from the people that have joined us. And maybe we can get some questions ready from you guys. What else can I ask you? So there is a couple of people in the chat that say that they're employed and self-employed. People can still have a Basisrente, even though maybe it's a
Of course, it all comes down to your taxable income in the end. It doesn't matter where it comes. The baseline is your taxable income.
okay.
So from that point of view, it's open to everybody. Again, the reason, and this is the way you have to look at it. The reason why we're doing this now is right, in Germany we have a demographic problem. I think we have a demographic problem in all of the Western world, really, probably. And we either don't have enough children, which we don't here in Germany, and we also have too many pensioners. So basically, this baby boom generation after the war, they're now either all pensioners or coming up to pension age. And the way our state system works, it's such a simple system. It's a generational contract, which means everybody working now pays for the people before them. And that hasn't worked out in a long time. So the government already put billions and billions and billions in every month to make sure that everybody gets a stable pension. Um, but the government weren't sure or aren't sure that they can keep pension levels at the way they are at the moment, because it is their biggest German government expense is actually pensions. So they came up with these different schemes. So we have 4 different tax benefited schemes in Germany, where the Basisrente is one of them. It's a tier 1. It's the first one. Basically, it's there to help people. So the government's saying, right, we're giving you these schemes and we want you to save for your future. We want you to save privately. And here you are, 42% of whatever you pay in, we're giving to you. So basically, it's free money. And if you're in a position to take that free money, so basically half of whatever you're saving is being given to you, more or less. It seems like a waste not to do it. The nice thing about the Basisrente, I'm sure we have some people in here who have a Basisrente. In the paying in, it's very, very flexible. So it makes sense to pay in on a monthly basis. It makes sense from an investment point of view, because there's a so-called cost average effect. So markets, by the nature of things, they go up and they go down. So they go up, they go down. And if you always buy the same amount, it guarantees that you're not buying too expensively, which means your investment, it gives it a very good chance to go well. But you do have that chance, and this is especially important for obviously employed people who can plan their income a bit more, but especially important for self-employed people. If they've had a good year, at the end of the year, they can top up the Basisrente to the amounts which are allowed, which I'll come on to in a second, and make use of that. So basically what you're doing is you're taking free money, you're saving for your future, and it's a win-win, really. And the nice thing is, even if after 5 years you leave Germany and that it stays there, and it is actually a substantial part of any pension planning that you have. There are limits. There are limits. Sorry, it's a topic I talk about an awful lot, Sian. So I could just talk and talk and talk and talk. That's not a problem. So this year you can pay in 29,344 euros in your tier one, pension system. We have a 3-tier pension system. Now, in your tier one pension system is your state pension, and there is also your Basisrente. The state pension always has preference, so that comes off your allowance first. But it works out to that even if you earn over 96,000 euros and you're paying the maximum amount possible into the state, you could still save 948 euros a month into your Basisrente and still get that tax allowance. With freelancers, it's obviously they're not paying into the state pension, so they can do the full 29,000, receive the tax benefit. And if you're married, it counts for each one of you. So if you're married, it's double for your partner. Yeah. Next question, Shah. Go on. Go on.
Can you see the questions, Matias? Have you still got the chat up?
Yes, but I can't see the questions.
Okay, can you see that one on the screen now? How does this, so this is where Matias is going to laugh at me now, everybody, because my
Okay.
German is non-existent. My English is
Right.
very
Could you say that word for me, please?
Knew you were going to ask.
Let's
How does this interact with having a, okay, bear with me. Oh, it's gone. Bear with me.
You're
A
lucky.
Strukturierung in your GmbH.
Pensionsrückstellung.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I meant to say.
It actually doesn't. Not at all. Pensionsrückstellungen have something to do with a tier 2 product, which is a betriebliche Altersvorsorge, which is a company pension schemes. All the tiers are different in Germany. So you have an allowance. So you have, I'll go a step back then. We have this 3-tier system. In the tier 1, we have your state pension and we have the Basisrente or the Rebrand. In the tier 2, we have the Riester-Rente, which is, unless you have a lot of children, of the 4 tax benefited schemes we have, is the one that doesn't work. And we have your occupational pension, your BAV, betriebliche Altersvorsorge. And in the tier 3, we have something called a private pension, which is a flexible pension where you can take your money out anytime and you have tax benefits at the back end. Each tier has different allowances and they don't interact with one another. So a Pensionsrückstellung, which your company would give you, has nothing to do with your Basisrente. I can say that myself from having my own company and being exactly in that position.
Okay. Have you finished? Sometimes I dad and jump in with you in case you're
No,
still going.
no.
You.
One thing I did want to say just quickly, because I keep talking about a Basisrente and a Rürup-Rente, and people often get confused about that. But a guy called Bert Rürup invented the Basisrente. So in Germany, we talk about one or we talk about the other, but they're both exactly the same thing. Okay, that's a confusion. That's the first difficult thing we have in Germany that confuses people from the off, so to say.
Yeah, a lot of people have heard of the Rebrand, but not the Bas. So yeah.
It's about fifth find.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is, do you offer or do we offer tax advisory services in private?
No, not us as a company because we're not licensed to do that. But we've been going a long time. We have a lot of clients. This is obviously a question which comes a lot, and we do have very good recommendations if people would want them. I always find it very difficult to give a recommendation because if it goes wrong, you're only trying to be nice, but always looks bad on you. With tax advisors, there are some which I would happily recommend because I know from feedback from our clients and everything that they are good.
Okay, perfect.
So if somebody would like that, they should just write in the chat and we will help them.
Wow, we could do with some more questions, guys, to be fair. We've only got a few. So we have one. I can actually say this word, so I don't mind reading this one out. Rentenversicherung counts as a Basisrente.
No, they are both in the tier 1. So the Rentenversicherung is your mandatory German state pension. They're both in the tier 1, but they're 2 separate products. The Rentenversicherung, as I say, for every employed person in Germany, is mandatory that you contribute to it. You contribute 18.6% of your income up to 96,800 euros. That's where it's capped. Of that 18.6%, your employer will pay half, as with all your social securities, and you pay half. The Basisrente is something separate. I always like to sort of call it like a state-backed private product. And that basically means Basisrente, we must have about 40 different providers in Germany that offer a Basisrente because you know what a insurance mad country we are. So we do have a lot of them. But anyway, The government says, right, your product has to do this, 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 and this, and this. And if it fulfills all of that, you can offer the tax benefit. So basically, they're very similar to one another. There are differences, slight differences in costs, differences in the amount of funds that are selected. Actually, in this case, differences in the way the pension is paid out. But it is a state-backed private product. And by private product, then means that you do have, they are most modern tariffs are fund-based, and you can then basically choose your own funds and make sure that you actually get some growth with them. They're very flexible in the paying in phase. So as I said, you can always top them up, but you can also on a monthly basis, basically change your contribution. And it's a case of writing, and we'll always help you with that, but it's a case of writing 2 sentences saying from the first of next month, I would like to pay 100 euros more or 100 euros less, whatever you want. So they're very, very flexible when you're paying in. You can pause them at any time without any penalty fees. So there's no minimum amount that you have to pay into them. They have to run for 5 years, but you don't have to contribute for 5 years. And what you can't do is you can't cancel them. So as I said before, one of the things is, if you ever get yourself in financial difficulties or something, nobody can ever touch that, which is an advantage. What a lot of people see as a disadvantage, which is maybe not the case because you are building up for your future, is you can't touch it either. So whatever you pay in there will stay there until you're 63 and then will get paid out as a pension. So you can't take the capital. So from that point of view, yeah, they are very flexible. In the paying in phase, it's very, very much in favor of the client always. And it sort of makes sense because the government wants to keep their population happy. What they back is good for them. In the paying out phase, it leans heavily on what the state pension does. So you have to get to a certain age and you have to, 63, and you have to take a pension. You can't take the capital. The reasoning behind that is an obvious one. There's no point, right? So if I'm the government, right, and I'm giving you a tax benefit, I'm giving you 42% towards your savings. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to get to 63, take all of your money, spend it all on a world cruise and come back 5 years later and have nothing left, because we do still in Germany live in a social state, and that means the state, they will pay for you. So that's the reason why they don't let you take the capital, because from their point of view, it's not what they're wanting. It's inheritable, but it's only inheritable to your registered living partner or any children that you have that are still in their first education, which is whilst they're still getting child benefit, which is normally up to the age of 25. Should you? So, and this is one of the advantages compared to the state pension. If you have a state pension and you've worked all your life and your partner's been at home and you die and you're getting 2,500, 2,600, 700, 800 euros pension, your wife then, once you die, would only get a widow's pension. And a widow's pension, depending on whether you have the small or a large one, is around 600 euros. And that's not the case with the Basisrente. It would carry on paying out in full to your partner up until the age that you as the insured person would have been 92.
So, Caitlin, what is the main advantage of the Basisrente over a Privatrente? Do the advantages change based on how much you can invest per month or if you are employed, self-employed? Maybe do the first one first. What is the main advantages of a Basisrente over a Privatrente?
That's a very different. So it's obviously the upfront tax benefit and being able to save more to begin with.
Yeah.
But that's a very difficult question to answer because it really depends on what you're looking to achieve. So the advantage of a Privatrente, I'll quickly touch on that, is the fact that it's very flexible and you can access your capital at any time. It should be seen as a long-term savings plan. So it's detrimental to your investment if you access it in the first year. But if you needed to, you could do. That's not a problem. However, right, a lot of our clients are very young and they don't know what the future holds and they're just founding a family and this, that, and whatever. And the ability to be able to access your money and have that flexibility is for very many people very, very important. Basisrente you should really only use if you do have that money spare, like really spare, you know you're not going to need it. A Privatrente is there. So, right, my son's just finished university, which is, and he was in London. He was at university in London and it costs a fortune. it really did cost a lot of money. And it wasn't the university and everything. That was okay. It's just the cost of living. London's so expensive, just costs a fortune. So in that position, many people find themselves or whatever. And it's nice to be able to access that money, should you. If you don't, or whatever's left at the end and you're 62, then you only pay tax on half of the growth you've had, which is a massive, massive tax benefit actually. But it does give you that flexibility. The answer to which is better, or again, it really, really depends on your situation. And I think the sensible thing is to actually sit down with somebody and explain what you're trying to achieve. And then it's a lot easier to give an answer. What I can say though, for most young people, is they need both. They need flexibility, as we've just gone through, but they also need security for later in life. So the ideal way really to use the system, and let's say you're saving 500 euros a month or something like that, is that you put 300 euros into your Basisrente to get that tax benefit, because you do want to take that tax benefit, and you put a couple of €100 into your private rente. And when you get your tax benefit back the following year, you use that to top up your private rente. So instead of saving 500 euros, you're saving 600 euros, 300 into a Basisrente, 300 into a private rente,
200.
and you've got the best of both worlds. You've got security and you've got flexibility. And that's often a sensible way to go.
That
But
was gonna
again,
and can you have both? And you answered it.
okay. But again, the way, if you come to it, MW or stay in future, the way we work, unless somebody absolutely doesn't want the advice, and I personally don't like that, but if somebody actually doesn't want the advice, then that's something different. We'll sit down with somebody, we'll explain exactly in a lot more detail, obviously, than I have done now, what a private rent actually means, how it actually works, what a company pension scheme, Riester, the way the tier one works. We'll explain all of that. And then we talk to the client, and the client has to, well, doesn't have to, but it's sensible if he does. The more information he gives us about what the plans are, where they see their future, what we're working with, their financial situation, it really helps us to give the better advice. And then at the end of it, if we've done our job properly, and I do believe that we do, we'll give a report to the client, we'll give our product information, we'll give provider information as well, which providers we would put together for the risk profile, what funds you would want. And it's, I would like to think that when somebody comes to us, when they leave and when they know what they're doing, and they can actually make a qualified decision themselves. So the answer to that is a good question, but quite a difficult one, because it's an individual thing. As are most things in life, it depends on your situation. One thing, last thing I can say about that, if I may, is when we go through those questions with people, we know and we are well aware of the fact that it's very difficult to say what you're doing next Tuesday, let alone what you're doing in 2 years' time or 20 years' time. So when we put these plans together, we have to use the is situation. So we have to have something to work on and work towards. But we do pay a lot of attention to make it flexible, because we do know, take it from me, I'm an old man now, but life doesn't always bring what you expect it to bring. And it's very, very important that you can then be flexible. Another reason why the dialogue between advisor and client or investor is so important.
Absolutely. Right. Let's go on to point two. I think you may have answered it. Do the advantages change based on how much you can invest per month, or if you are employed, self-employed?
Well, as a self-employed person, so the Basisrente is basically a must, because you do need, it's a, the way I always look at it, with your state pension or with a Basisrente, the way it should be your safe pension box, which you're filling. Right? That's your pension box. That's to guarantee that you're never going to be hungry when you retire and stuff like that. Once you've got that filled and sorted out, then you can start looking, or should start looking, at other investments, because they're the ones that make sure that you can buy your grandchildren big presents at Christmas and stuff like that. But as a self-employed person, the first thing I would always do and always recommend is have a Basisrente. Yeah, and again, it's not set in stone which is better, but it's a combination of both, really.
Number three, I think you kind of answered it. Which one is better for a lump sum end of year?
Quite clearly, the Basisrente, because of the tax benefit you get back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very simple thing. I pay in 10,000 euros and I get 4,200 back.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Right. Okay. I hope that answered your questions, Caitlin. Dimitri, thanks for the rotation. Am I right to understand that this Basisrente product has the advantage in terms of being tax deductible, but disadvantage in terms of liquidity compared to some other pension insurance investment products?
Totally, totally. Um, I think we've probably covered a lot of that, but yes, the Basisrente has the tax deductibility. It's a very, very highly effective method of building up a pension quickly. Therefore, it's also suitable for people who are already, which in pension terms is very late, 45, 48, very suitable for them because they will still, by taking advantage of tax benefits, reach their targets. But of course, a private pension or even a occupational pension at the end of it is a lot more liquid. You can actually take the capital. And again, it really depends on your situation, what's important to you. That's a difficult answer. But yeah, there are, I have to say this now, there are lots of forms of investing and saving for your future. It doesn't always have to be a pension or a long-term savings plan. You can use a platform. You can use an ETF savings plan through your bank. And with platform, I mean Trade Republic, Scalable, things like that. And they all have their advantages and disadvantages. But when we look at them, it has a lot to do with the fee structure. A private pension has actually that's not good. Right. Again, we said the government says your product has to do this, this, and this, and this, and then you can offer whichever form of tax benefit that the product offers. One of the things that they all insist on, all the same, is they have fairly high upfront costs, which I'll explain in that now because that's one of the biggest questions that we have.
Absolutely.
So you always have to think about, and that's probably the most important question that we'll ever ask the client, is what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to achieve short to mid-term savings or are you trying to achieve mid to long-term savings? Um, exactly how long that is a little bit difficult to say because it depends a little bit on the performance that you've had. So has your investment gone super well? Then the time's shorter. Has it not gone so well? The time's a little bit longer. But 8, 9 years, somewhere around there is the split between short to mid-term and mid to long-term. Right. If I'm looking to save short to mid-term, then a platform solution like Trade Republic or something like that, or your bank, is always the way to go. We can also help people with platform solutions. Anyway, if you're looking for longer term, then the tax benefited route is the way to go. The reasons are simple, is that the way their fee structure works are totally, totally different. So if I go to my bank, I go to a Deutsche Bank, right? I've got a bank account with the Deutsche Bank and I set up a Max Blue ETF savings account, classically. And I save 100 euros every month into that Max Blue ETF savings account. At the end of the first year, I've got 1,200 euros and I've got hopefully a little bit of growth. And then the Deutsche Bank will say, okay, for giving you this vehicle to save into and your fund costs and all of this, it's going to cost you 1.5% of your capital. And you're talking about 1,200 euros and a little bit of growth, and 1.5% is negligible. It's not a lot of money. Okay. And you don't really notice it. But the idea is you're looking to save long term, and the day comes when you have 100,000 euros. And they're still only going to charge you 1.5%. But all of a sudden, 1.5% is actually quite a lot of money. So basically, the more you have, the more expensive they become because they work on the capital amount that you've had. Trading platforms work slightly differently. It has to do with clean shares, this, that, and whatever. But if you look at Trade Republic, for example, Trade Republic, which always advertises no cost, this, that, and whatever, is a hugely successful company. So they make money somewhere, and basically they're making it from your money. So the theory is the same. The more money you have with them, the more money they make. These work, so the tax benefited products work slightly different. And let's say you pay the same 100 euros a month into it and you make them as similar as possible. You choose the same funds and the same fund costs and whatever. And at the end of the first year, you have your 1,200 euros and a little bit of growth. They might say to you, or actually very likely around this mark, right, for giving you this vehicle, we're going to charge you 200 euros, which is, to be fair, at that moment in time. But at the end of the second year, when you have 2,400 euros and a little bit more growth, they're going to charge you 200 euros. And when you have 100,000 euros in there, they're going to charge you 200 euros. So they work exactly the other way around as a percentage of your capital. They become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper the more you have. So there's a sort of a divide. And the question is always short to mid-term or mid to long-term. Short to mid-term, always take the platform because of the fee structure. Mid to long-term, always take something that's tax benefited because in the long run, you'll go much better with that. But that is a very, very important thing. And that's one thing that we make very clear to our clients always at the beginning. Because if you set up and you set up a client with €100, and at the end of the first year, he realizes he's paid €200 costs and he doesn't understand why, that makes for a really horrible review meeting. And I would like us all to have like happy long-term relationships. And it's fine as long as you understand it, because the system's fine. But you actually have to understand it. That's why that's one of the things that we always, always cover in a lot of details.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're out of questions. There's no more questions on there other than, can you explain the 42% again? Is
Okay.
that bracket?
That really, really, really depends a little bit on your income. Okay. Um, no, that's not guaranteed. That's the maximum that we pay into. So as soon as I'm earning 60, 70, 80,000 euros, I'm in the maximum tax rate. So I'm paying 42% taxes. What you have to understand is a little bit how our tax system works here. It's a progressive one. So it goes up very steeply, and then it pillars out a tough to line out. I think it's 60, high 60,000 euros. You're in the maximum tax rate. So if you're earning 80,000 euros and you're paying 10,000 euros into your Basisrente, what you're actually doing is you're taking away from the top part. So you're taking away from the part which is 42%. We have two tax rates. We have it's called a Spitzensteuersatz, so it's a peaks tax rate, and that is the 42%. I'll make you say that next time, Sean.
As soon as you said it. Everyone in this chat can't say German words how you say German words. So I'm alone.
So that's your maximum tax rate. Because it's progressive, we have an average tax rate. So the average tax rate is always below your Spitzensteuersatz, your peak tax rate. But depending on your income, you're taking away from the top. Okay. And it really is however much tax you pay in your, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, in your average tax rate, that's how much you're going to get back. So if you have let's change it. If you have a tax rate of 35% on your income and you pay in 10,000 euros, then you've overpaid 3,500 euros, and that's what they give back to you. So no, it's not. It is guaranteed depending on your income.
Just your personal tax rate that it goes on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I think we are done for questions. So I'm just going to wrap it up and tell you what you need to do now, or what you could do now. If you would like a one-to-one, we have, obviously, like I said, a pension team. We're going to put a link in the chat. If you can't access the chat for some reason, I think some people might be joining on mobile phones. So if you can't access the chat for any reason, you will be sent an email after this recording, and the link will be in there. If you click on the link, it literally takes 20 seconds. It will put you through to one of our advisors. You can book a slot in her diary to have a call. During that call, you can then make an appointment with a pensions advisor. Once you're with the pensions advisor, we will explain to you the pensions that Matias has just gone through, how the 3-tier system works. Have a look at your circumstances, because every pension is going to be different. It's always tailor-made to you because you all have different circumstances. So as I said, click the link. It takes 20 seconds. We can have a chat. And we can see if we can help you. If you do already have a Basisrente and you want to do a top up, have till around the 12th. So maybe next Friday, if you wanted to do a lump sum top
Nope,
up.
nope, you've got that
No?
totally the wrong way, Raja. So basically, if you've already got a Basisrente and you would
Yeah.
like to top it up, it's important that the money is with the provider before the end of the year. So we actually do have the end of the year to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not leave it that tight, but yes, theoretically, yes. If you haven't got one yet and you think, all right, I'd like to save myself those taxes, or I don't want to give the government that present, I'd rather make that money work for me, then it's still not too late to set one up. But it has to be done by about the 14th, 15th, 16th. The application actually goes to the provider. So we have to have the application to set up the Basisrente. The Basisrente should always be set up with a small monthly payment, no matter how much. And then we have a Basisrente account. And then if somebody wants to top up on the Basisrente that they've just set up, we have until the end of the year again. So it's not too late to save that money at all. But it is, if that's what I'd like to at least find out whether I want to do that or not. I think that's the most important thing. It's not would I like to, but at least get the information to find out if I want to do that. Then it's time to get cracking, really, if we want to make use of 2025. And if we don't make it for some reason or whatever, 2026, the allowances go up, what I'm allowed to save every year by a little bit. That's there for you as well.
And if they don't do it before the end of 2025, you can't then reclaim
No,
2025? Make
no,
sure?
it's always the tax year. So on the 1st of January, that tax benefit you've lost.
Okay, so you can't backdate.
No, you can't backdate that.
Okay, perfect. Right, the link is in the chat, guys. I hope this has been informative.
I would really, really like to say,
Go on, Matias.
right, so because we are rebranding to Stay. Stay has a lot of wordplay. One of the reasons why we like Stay, it has a lot of wordplay opportunities. So you stay invested, you stay insured, you stay protected, you stay secure, you stay whatever. And one of the things you can say is you can stay informed. And because we've realized how little expats do actually know, we've decided to try and change that, Sian and myself. And we are on a regular basis going to have these shows, always with a topic, which is an up-to-date topic. We would like to have one next week. The one we'd like to have next week has to do with help. My health insurance has become really expensive, whether I'm state insured or whether I'm privately insured, and what can I do about it, which is a topic which, as health insurance is mandatory in Germany, affects us all. And now's the time, again, with a little bit of let's get cracking, now's the time when we can still change that, and we could change that. I'm not 100% fan of the private insurance. I'm not 100% fan of the state insurance. It's again like which pension is better for me. It really, really depends on your situation. What I do know, in general, our healthcare system in Germany is good. It's just super expensive to the point that it's even starting to shock Americans. So that's the topic we would like to go over, and we'd like to move forward, and we'd like to have these shows and inform people a lot more often, and then try and get that information across. I think it's quite a nice format to do it in, because who do you ask? You ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, I have to say, is shocking. Some of the answers are very nice and it does help a lot, but some of the answers it give are just shockingly wrong. You have to say that. Or you go and see some kind of insurance advisor or something, and then you're being sold something straight away, if you know what I mean. So I think in this format, it's actually very nice because people can ask their questions without feeling under pressure then, and without whatever. So we're going to carry on doing this on a regular basis. As I say, next week we are going to do healthcare. But one of the things I'd like to do, because, or would like to do, Sian and myself have been talking about this a long, long time. People have so many questions about insurances, and it doesn't have to be about pensions, but what have I ever wanted to know about German insurances? And at the end of every show, we're going to take 10, 15 minutes and we're just going to answer various questions. And if there's a really good question in there, we'll make it the topic of the next show. So we're very much looking forward to doing that. We are an insurance finance company, obviously, and we would like people to set up policies with us and whatever. But I am a great believer in a global world, and whatever. It's like I like that. I like that. One of the reasons what I'm really proud of is that we have 18 nationalities working for us. And integration is a difficult thing. And I know we're not very good in Germany. I know that. I know you go to the Ausländerbehörde in Berlin and every sign is in German. That doesn't really make it easy for people. And we're not good at that. So if this is I can't even think of the German word now, Beitrag. If this is our bit to help integration and do our little bit to just help people understand things which can be very complicated, really, really happy to be able to do that.
Yeah. And
So
like you said, it didn't
if
have
you
oh, go on. I was just gonna say,
if you have, please recommend this further. Please talk to your friends. Please whatever. If you have any questions, if you need anything, this is the show for you to do it. Oh, as it says, thanks a lot for this session, and really looking forward to. I have to say one more thing, right? I have to say both me and Charm were really nervous, really nervous before this, but we think it's gone well, and I've actually surprisingly really enjoyed myself, and I hope you have as well. But now I'll give you over to Sham because I do tend to talk a lot.
this is why I was nervous, because you can't shut him up. Once he starts, I can't shut him up. But I hope he was informative. I hope this was informative. And yeah, if you want to join the next session, help my healthcare is rising. Is that what it was with the topic?
Yeah, we'll think of maybe a better name, but that's the first one that's sprung to mind just now. But the topic is clear.
yeah, healthcare next week. So if you do have any questions regarding healthcare, public, private, yeah, do get in touch with us. And thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you. And thank you, Sian.
No, thank you, Matias.
All right. Take care.
Sweet.
Bye-bye.